I want you to think about a moment that may have happened years ago. You stepped outside one morning and saw a deer standing near your yard. Maybe you tossed it an apple. Maybe you left some food near the edge of the trees. Then life moved on. Months passed. Seasons changed. And one day that same deer seemed to appear again as if it somehow remembered you. The question quietly settled into your mind. Can a wild deer really remember a person years later? It sounds almost impossible. After all, deer are wild animals. They do not live beside us the way dogs do. They do not greet us at the door or learn our routines in obvious ways. Most of the time they stay hidden. They watch from the shadows. They disappear into forests and fields long before we get close. Yet countless people have told remarkably similar stories. A deer they once fed returns year after year. A doe approaches calmly while avoiding everyone else. A familiar animal appears each season at nearly the same spot as if keeping an appointment nobody ever scheduled. For a long time, many people assumed these stories were simply coincidences. Perhaps different deer were being mistaken for the same one. Perhaps people were seeing patterns where none existed. But modern research into animal behavior has revealed something fascinating. Wild deer possess much stronger memories than most people realize. To understand why, we first need to understand what life is like from a deer's perspective. Every day is a test of memory. A deer must remember where food grows during different seasons. It must remember which trails lead safely through its territory. It must remember where predators have appeared in the past. It must remember where streams remain unfrozen during winter and where shelter can be found during storms. Imagine walking through your neighborhood blindfolded. Now imagine having to find food, water, safety, and shelter while avoiding danger at every turn. You would rely heavily on memory. Deer do exactly that every single day. Researchers studying white-tailed deer and other deer species have found that they create detailed mental maps of their surroundings. These maps can cover surprisingly large areas and remain stable for years. A deer may remember a certain oak tree because acorns fall there every autumn. It may remember a particular backyard because fruit drops from a tree each summer. It may remember a quiet corner of a field because danger has rarely appeared there. When a deer returns to a familiar location, after several years, it is not wandering randomly. It is often following a memory, and that brings us to the more intriguing question. Can deer remember individual humans? The answer appears to be yes. Research has shown that many wild animals can recognize specific people. Birds can do it, foxes can do it, elephants can do it. Deer appear capable of it as well. This ability makes perfect sense when viewed through the lens of survival. Not all humans behave the same way. Some people chase wildlife away. Some hunt. Some create loud disturbances. Others move quietly through the landscape without causing harm. For a deer, these differences matter enormously. If one person repeatedly creates a safe experience while another creates danger, the deer gains an advantage by remembering the difference. Think about a homeowner who spends years gardening in a backyard. A deer occasionally visits the edge of the property. The person never approaches aggressively. They never shout. They never chase the animal away. Gradually, the deer begins associating that individual with safety. The next time it sees the same person, its reaction may be very different from its response to a stranger. What seems like trust may actually be recognition. Scientists believe deer rely on several clues to identify familiar humans. One of the most important is scent. Humans tend to think vision is the primary way animals understand the world. For deer, smell is often even more important. A deer's sense of smell is extraordinary. It can detect odors carried across long distances and identify subtle differences that humans would never notice. To us, two people may smell almost identical after spending a day outdoors. To a deer, they are completely different. Imagine a person who regularly walks the same trail while carrying apples or grain. Over time, the deer learns that unique combination of scents. Years later, a familiar smell drifting on the wind may trigger recognition long before the animal even sees the person's face. Hearing also plays a role. Deer are highly sensitive to sound. They learn the noises associated with safety and danger. A calm, familiar voice heard repeatedly over time becomes part of their memory. The sound of footsteps, the rhythm of movement, even the way a gate opens can become recognizable patterns. Then there is visual recognition. Studies involving captive deer have shown that they can distinguish between different people based on appearance and behavior. They pay attention to posture movement and other visual cues. Imagine two neighbors standing at the edge of a field. One frequently scares deer away. The other quietly observes from a distance. To human eyes, both situations may look similar. To a deer, the difference can become deeply memorable, but perhaps the most remarkable part of this story is not simply memory. It is how long those memories may last. Researchers have observed that deer often maintain stable home ranges for many years. Adult females in particular may spend much of their lives within familiar territories. This means a positive experience can remain relevant for a very long time. A young doe that discovers a safe property may continue visiting that location season after season. Eventually, she may bring her fawns there as well. The people living on that property sometimes believe multiple generations of deer somehow know them personally. In a way, they might be right. Young deer learn from their mothers. They observe feeding locations. They follow established routes. They inherit knowledge about safe places. A trusted location can become part of a family's behavior across generations. The original relationship begins with one deer, but the effects may continue long afterward. This is one reason stories about returning deer feel so emotional. They remind us that wild animals are not simply passing through the landscape without awareness. They are constantly learning, constantly remembering, constantly making decisions based on experience. If you enjoy exploring these hidden connections between people and wildlife, consider subscribing to Global Wild Origins. We love sharing the remarkable stories that reveal how much more is happening in nature than most of us ever realize. What makes this subject truly meaningful is that it changes how we think about our everyday actions. Many people imagine that small moments with wildlife disappear almost instantly. A brief encounter seems insignificant. A single act of kindness feels temporary. But animals experience the world through accumulated memories. A deer that finds food during a difficult winter remembers the location. A deer that encounters calm behavior remembers the person. A deer that discovers safety remembers the place. Those memories become part of its understanding of the world. Of course, we should never forget that deer remain wild animals. They are not pets. They do not form human friendships in the same way we do. Their behavior is shaped by survival, not sentiment. Yet recognizing that difference does not make the story any less beautiful. In many ways, it makes it more beautiful, because what returns is not dependency. It is memory. A wild creature moving freely through forests, fields, and seasons has carried a small piece of information across years of its life. Somewhere in that information is a place where danger never came. Somewhere in that memory is a person who once offered food instead of fear, and that memory matters. So the next time you look out a window and see a deer standing quietly at the edge of your yard, pause for a moment before turning away. Maybe it is not the same deer you saw years ago, but maybe it is. Maybe behind those watchful eyes exists a memory stretching back through countless sunrises and winters. A memory of a familiar place, a familiar scent, a familiar human presence. And if that is true, then what feels like a simple encounter is actually something far more extraordinary. It is a reminder that the natural world notices more than we think. It remembers more than we imagine. And sometimes, long after we have forgotten a small act of kindness, a wild deer may still be carrying the memory with it through the quiet paths of the world.